I bought the Play 112 Black Warrior, aka Darth Maul, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about this figure. There are many great things about it, but with those great things come some very disappointing things too. Now, these could just be problems with my figure, but with the price I paid for it, I seriously wish things were different. So, I'm here to tell you about my thoughts on this guy, the good and the bad, and let you decide for yourself if you think he'll make a good addition to your collection. We'll start off with this clear crotch gripper he comes with to hold him in place. For the heads, you get this absolutely immaculate plain expression, as well as this ferocious face. And of course, you can't have a Sith without their lightsaber, so here we have his dual lightsaber hilt with some very detailed sculpt all around. But what's a hilt without some actual saber parts? Here you get 5 saber parts. 3 dark red and 2 orangey parts. Each saber can connect to the ends of the hilt very easily, but be careful though because they do seem like they can snap pretty easily if you bend it too much. And here's how the orange saber looks. Maul also comes with his electro binoculars, which are very well sculpted and looks just as it does in the movies. Now for hands, you start off with these slightly open, slightly gripping hands. Here we have some open hands, some even more dramatic open hands, which you could use like a force push kind of hand. I don't know what to call these hands really, but it's probably for some force ability too. Of course, his lightsaber holding hands, or any other weapon accessory you give him really. He also comes with 2 cups for his arms. One is more plain, while the other has a silver plating on one arm. I personally don't really see why this was added, because I don't really see myself changing between the 2 pairs that often. But of course, we can't forget his majestic black cloak. It can be a bit iffy trying to fit well or pose, but regardless, it still looks pretty badass however he wears it. When it comes to accessories, I think Maul comes with what he needs. All the different hands are perfect for if you want him to use some force abilities or to have some cool fight stance with his saber. The heads are good too, with 1 neutral face and 1 angry face for when he's in some intense combat. Now, I do have some issues with his hands and heads, but I'll get to them at the end of the video. Alright, getting into how this guy moves, he can look this far up and pretty far down, which is nice for when he's looking down at the opponents he's beat. His head can also turn like an owl, and thanks to the articulated neck, you can get some very expressive tilt with it too. Now, due to his robes, movement in the arms might be a little limited depending on how high or how far back you want them to move. You get some pretty good bend at the elbow and full range of movement at the wrists. Due to the thick layer of clothing he has, I feel his ab crunch is a bit limited, but he can still go down this far, and with help of the waist/legs, he has some pretty good range. However, I think how far back he can go is even more impressive. He can really hit that Kenobi! Surprisingly, the legs can kick up pretty high, and also pretty far back. Really impressive bend at the knee even with all the clothing, and some thigh swivel. Now, when it comes to the boots/ankles, this is where many people will probably be disappointed. Although you do get some boot swivel, it's because of these boots that you get practically no movement at the ankles. So he'll always have his feet flat on the ground. But there is a solution if you wish to do some modding. I'd suggest you go watch other videos on this figure for that, like Plasties, but basically you'd have to cut the boot in a specific area around his ankles to allow the ankle joint underneath to actually work. Anyways, when it comes to Maul's articulation, I think he moves perfectly for his character. He has all the range of movement a Sith would need for high intensity lightsaber duels where they do backflips and all that. Except for the ankles, of course. Oh, and before I forget, some parts of his robe are also articulated with a bendy wire, so he can look a little bit more dynamic in certain poses. Now for a quick size comparison, here he is next to another third-party figure, the Lim Toys Joel. Here he is next to the SHF Deadpool, a Mezco Predator who just absolutely towers over Maul, but I think it works. Maul would still win. Here he is next to the 3-pack Venom, who is also rightfully taller than Maul, but could you imagine Maul with a symbiote? That would be crazy. Here he is with a Mafex symbiote Spidey, and you know what? This looks a little familiar now that I think about it.
This ends now.
And lastly, here he is with my only Yamaguchi figure, Shoto Todoroki. So unfortunately, I don't own any 112 Star Wars figures to compare Maul with, and I probably won't for a while. The only other Star Wars figures I own are these small guys. And I don't know about you, but with good teamwork, I think they can take Maul on. So after having this figure for about a month now, I gotta say it looks great. But that's about it. It looks great. The details and accessories on this guy look so damn good no matter how you pose them. Now, it would be so much better if it was actually easy to swap hands and heads. Now, I don't know if heating up the pegs would have helped much or anything, but earlier in the video when I showed off the different hands, it probably took me like 10 minutes in between each take. That's how much of a hassle it was for me to swap these damn things. The hand can barely fit onto the wrist peg, and when it does, it somehow slips off so easily. And don't even get me started on the f***ing head. The sculpts are great, in fact too great, because these damn spikes on his head make it so damn painful to try and remove or place his other head. That is, of course, if I could even place the other f***ing head. Now, like I said, this could just be my figure, but when I removed Maul's head, the joint stayed stuck in it, and I could not remove it for the life of me. And that's why when I showed off the angry head sculpt earlier on, it wasn't on the body itself. This was actually the first time I ever used a hairdryer to heat up a figure, and even after that, I couldn't remove the damn joint from the head. It got to the point I had to use some heavy-duty pliers to grip the ball and pull it out. It didn't take me one try though, nope. It took me many attempts to finally pull it out. So much in fact that the ball now has a ton of its plastic scraped and damaged. So yeah, this figure looks great, but the playability is completely ass. Not to mention, this centerpiece on his leather belting he has come off so many times for me and is also a pain to try and put back on. Not to mention that you need to cut the damn boot to get some ankle articulation. For the price one would have to pay to get this guy, I just personally feel like you shouldn't have to deal with this much shit. So, do I think you should get this figure for yourself? It depends. If you have extremely good patience and you're a huge Darth Maul fanboy, by all means go for it. Because yeah, the presence this guy can have on your shelf is something else, don't get me wrong. But to change all the hands and head for that specific pose you want? Oof. So if you're okay with settling for a Black Series figure or an SHF, anything like that, you'll probably be better off. I kind of don't regret buying this figure. I was excited after seeing the promo pics and just how badass he looks, but like I said, that's about it. I'll most likely just be keeping him in one pose forever because of how much of a pain it is to change anything. Anyways, that brings us to the end of the video. If you have found this review helpful, consider leaving a like to help out the channel, and subscribe for future reviews on more figures. See you guys later, and have a great time collecting.